Google phones for Android purists, follow @Snowden on Twitter, and how the floppy disk is saving us from nuclear apocalypse. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 434 for Tuesday, September 29th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit epson.com/EcoTank to find out more. Welcome, I'm Megan Morrone. Let's get to the tech news. Google made a plethora of announcements today. Let's get to the phones first, both of which are available now to pre-order from the Google Store. The Nexus 6P, made from Huawei, runs on Android Marshmallow, features a Snapdragon 810 V2.1 processor, a USB-C port for fast charging, a 5.7 WQHD display, a 12.3 megapixel rear camera, an 8-megapixel front-facing camera, and dual front-facing speakers. Prices start at $499. The Nexus 5X, made by LG, is a 5.2-inch display phone. It has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 808 processor with a 1080p resolution, and it also uses USB-C for fast charging. The 5X includes a new fingerprint sensor on the back. Google's calling that the Nexus Imprint. This phone starts at $376 for 16 gigabytes. But for those of you who are nearing the end of your underwhelming 3-month free Apple Music trial, you might want to consider one of Google's other announcements. Chromecast Audio, the new tool, aims to do for audio streaming what Chromecast did for video streaming. The $35 device lets you stream Spotify, Pandora, Google Play Music, and other selected apps on Android and iOS devices to the speakers that you already have in your home. Google also announced an update to Chromecast that supports the latest Wi-Fi standards, adjusts to changing Wi-Fi conditions in your house, and makes it easier to plug into TVs with crowded ports. Now, more than one journalist is ominously calling the new Chromecast the Trojan horse in our home because it's a somewhat stripped-down, simple tool instead of an all-in-one solution. Chromecast allows Google to serve as the interface between your hardware and all of the content that you want to consume. They don't have to worry about where the media comes from or what software controls it, but they're hoping that the devices are so cheap they'll be as ubiquitous and as unobtrusive as their search engine. And finally, there was the new Pixel C. This is a tablet that some are already calling Google's answer to the iPad Pro. We'd heard rumors that the newest Pixel would not run the Chrome OS as the largely unpopular previous Pixels have done, but like the Pixels of the past, the Pixel C is not so cheap for what it is. The tablet starts at $499, but the keyboard will cost you an extra $150. Google says it will be available in time for the holidays. Mike Elgin, Twit's news director, was at the event this morning. He says that there was a lot of excitement about the Pixel. He also said that it has a 4-microphone array, which would allow it to respond to voice commands, and which means that it would also function as a home automation device like the Amazon Echo. If you want to see the rest of the announcements Google made this morning, you can download or stream our Twit Live special at twit.tv. And in other news, whistleblower Edward Snowden is now on Twitter. You can find him at Snowden, which leads to my first question. How did he get that name so late in the Twitter game? His first tweet was just, "Can you hear me now?" That was a play on those old Verizon commercials. As was noted by many online today, one of the first Snowden leaks was the NSA's secret court order compelling Verizon to hand over bulk data on all telephone calls in its systems. You can follow @Snowden to see his conversations with geek luminaries like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but do not expect Snowden to follow you. The only account he's following is that of the NSA. Now, is that our attention spans I see getting longer? Kurt Wagner and Jason Del Rey at Recode say that Twitter is coming up with a plan to allow tweets to exceed 140 characters. Now, it's a new product that will let people publish longer form content. This news is interesting. It comes on the heels of yesterday's announcement by publisher Medium that they had just raised $57 million in funding and are holding an event on October 7th to announce new features and partnerships. Medium was co-founded by Ev Williams, who was the co-founder and former CEO of Twitter. Coming up, do you remember floppy disks? If you do, you're either as old as I am or you're in the U.S. Air Force. But first, this episode is brought to you by Epson. Epson's revolutionary EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The new EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer does not use ink cartridges. Instead, it features an innovative refillable ink tank. It comes with enough ink to print up to 8,500 pages. That's equivalent to about 50 ink cartridge sets. You're loaded and ready to print for up to 2 years. It's powered by Epson's leading-edge precision core technology. It delivers high-speed, vivid colors, laser-quality black text, plus auto two-sided printing, a 30-page auto document feeder, and easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value with ultra-low cost replacement ink bottles. Now you have the freedom to print without running out of ink. So visit Epson.com/EcoTank today to transform the way your home, office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the new Epson EcoTank printers. That's EPSON.com/EcoTank. And we thank Epson for their support. Epson, exceed your vision. New Android smartphones and tablets are all well and good, but let's not move so quickly into the future as to forget the technology that got us here. Over the weekend, Brad Jones from Digital Trends wrote a piece called "Think the Floppy Disk is Dead, Think Again. Here's Why It Still Stands Between Us and a Nuclear Apocalypse." Welcome, Brad.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
So remind us how big, like how much space a floppy disk had and what it could hold, say, compared to like a cheap smartphone, what that could hold today.
Well, the typical floppy disk that people think of when they think of a floppy disk would have had 1.44 megabytes of space on it, which isn't very much at all, considering that, a flash drive today, if it was less than 4 gigabytes, you'd look at it and think, what a piece of junk. So having 1.44 megabytes doesn't seem like anything that's even useful anymore, because if you think about an MP3 file, a decent quality photograph, an animated GIF, any of those things probably wouldn't fit on a standard floppy.
So you tell an interesting story about Tom Persky. You call him the last man standing in the floppy disk business. Tell us Tom's story.
Well, Tom calls himself the last man standing in the floppy disk business, and he's correct to call himself that because he owns and operates floppydisk.com, which is one of the last places that you can buy a floppy disk from. Manufacturers have stopped creating floppy disks because there isn't enough of a demand for them to continue production, but people out there still use them on a daily basis. So Tom is the last man standing. That's the way to put it. He is selling discs where no one else feels the need to.
Well, in your research, was anyone thinking they were going to start making them again? I know, like, for a while, like, people were not making typewriter ribbons anymore, but then it became, like, this vintage thing. So now they started being created again. In your research, did you see anybody who was like, let's start making more floppy disks, or are we about to come to the end of our floppy disk supply?
No, I think we are about to come to the end, but part of the appeal seems to be that they are running out. Of course, there's a market that's sort of like the vinyl resurrection or anything else, where people are interested because it's considered to be outdated and it's a little bit different than having a flash drive like everyone else. But of course, there's the other end that are people who have been using them since they were in vogue, if you will. People that just haven't got out of the habit of having a floppy for these situations where nothing else will really do the job as well.
So, yeah, I mean, there's people that just love the floppy disks. Why are they still using that?
Well, the enthusiasts are a breed of their own. No one will really understand why someone would willingly force a floppy disk upon themselves. But the other half of that is that back in the 1990s, a lot of the systems, and this is across a wide range of industries, there's the aviation industry uses a lot of this, I understand, and embroidery machines are another top example of systems and machines that maybe don't look like a normal computer because it would be, an embroidery machine, but were created in the 1990s, and their file format, that they were built to use floppy disks. So you would put in a pattern and it would embroider whatever you want based on the floppy disk. But the machine itself was designed so that, in 2045, it'd still be producing the same embroidery. And it was just assumed that, hey, floppy disks seem great now. We probably won't change it again. But of course, within 10 years, the floppy disk was out of date. But now the fact is that there was so much money poured into these machines that it's not practical to replace them, and it's not practical to gut them and put a CD drive or anything else in. So various industries are tied to floppy disks for the foreseeable future, it seems.
So these machines were made in a time where we fixed machines, and we're not really living in a time like that. Now it's like my DVD player broke. Well, now I don't say my DVD player broke because I don't have a DVD player. But I think that was the time when I got to the point where I was like, my DVD player broke and there's no one to fix it. I'm just going to throw it in the garbage. You know, I remember that moment where it's like, we don't fix things anymore. So those machines that were built just in the 90s, doesn't seem like that long ago, but I guess it was, they were built to last longer than we're building machines now.
Yes, they were built to working machines as well. So it's not something that has the light usage that it would have in a residence or something. These are machines that will be used in and out 40 hours a week. So these are heavy duty machines, and they were built to last decades. But unfortunately, the world of tech moves a lot quicker than some industries move. So that's the problem that they're trying to deal with. And it's a tricky one to get a handle on, because there is an appeal to having machines that last that long. But of course, like with the DVD player example, would you keep fixing a DVD player whilst Blu-ray comes out and whatever the next format is? And you find yourself, there's the problem with technology, and it's a nice problem to have. It moves at such a rate that the machinery itself is never going to be able to keep up in any way that sort of makes sense to a user.
So now it's not just old-fashioned embroidery machines that use floppy disks. The United States Department of Defense still uses floppy disks. How do they use them, and should we be terrified that they're still using them?
No. The thing about the Department of Defense is they're not tied to them in the same way as an embroiderer's would be. They're using the floppy disk for the very purpose that they are out of date, because it's seen that a floppy disk is harder to interfere with. If someone did have, bad intentions and wanted to hack a nuclear computer, they would find it very difficult, because the hardware that they're using is different to the typical computers of today. And it forces an extra disconnect. But having spoken to the Department of Defense last week, I'm told that research is ongoing into a better solution, a more modern solution. But the reason that it might not move as quickly as you would think, with the amount of money and the amount of time that's been spent on the research, is that everything, of course, when we're talking about nuclear weaponry, has to be tested to such a enormous level. Like, any sort of situation has to be run through, every sort of outcome, it just takes a lot of time, is what I'm told, that going through all these different outcomes that could possibly happen, it's not a simple matter of, well, stick a CD drive in there and it'll probably be as good and run a little bit quicker.
So now, is the Department of Defense the same ones that are using it? It's the U.S. Air Force, the nuclear silo. Is that different, or is that's the same?
Yes, it's the same. From what I understand, and having been passed around several different government departments last week whilst I was trying to get the comment, various departments are half and half. Some of them write off this, the floppy disk story again. We spoke about that with 60 Minutes last week. But some of the people in various departments seemed about as flabbergasted as the average person when they learned that the U.S. military still makes use of these 8-inch archaic floppy drives.
Well, I mean, I guess it's just, that, maybe the new is not always better. It's something that works. Why bother trying to use something that you're not sure if it's going to work, I guess.
Right. Tried and tested was the line that I was given repeatedly. So I can certainly understand that measure. I mean, I wouldn't want to be controlling nuclear weaponry with an iPhone app that's been on the store for 2 weeks. Right.
Exactly.
It's probably better.
Well, Brad Jones, thank you so much. Brad Jones is a writer at Digital Trends. You write about new technology mostly. This was a fascinating piece about old technology, but you do write a lot of great pieces about the current technology, not just the old-fashioned stuff. And you are on Twitter at Beard Jones. Thank you so much, Brad, for coming on.
Thank you very much, Megan.
Take care.
Bye.
And finally tonight, The Verge reports that the much-anticipated Tesla Model X will launch tonight at 8 p.m. Pacific time. And at an event outside its Fremont, California factory, Tesla will deliver the early edition signature Model X crossovers to those lucky customers who pre-ordered the car. The Model X is bigger, and it won't go as far without a charge, so expect more range anxiety, but not too much more. The Verge says the performance version will only give up 3 miles of range against its Model S equivalent, but the non-performance version gives up 13 miles. The Model X will have 3 rows of seating, so perfect for all your little sticky-fingered toddlers to spill their juice boxes all over the seats. Twit will be live streaming the Tesla announcement at 8 p.m. Pacific time, so tune in. And that is it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/Tech News Tonight. You can like us, you get links to the show when it's posted and some of the stories we talk about. And if you want to be part of the conversation, post a comment on the stories we post. We will read some of them right here. You can also subscribe to the show at twit.tv/TN2. You can write to us at tn2@twit.tv. And you can watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today, every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Morrone. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by CashFly.com.